Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to get into 3 key tech stories you really should know about. We want to cut through the noise. We're covering quite a range. Some tricky cyber espionage using, well, seemingly normal files, a totally new threat aimed at Mac users, and also a pretty major bug in the latest Windows update. It's definitely a mix of digital security vulnerabilities and how this stuff hits us in the real world.
Absolutely. And looking at these different issues, it really shows you the sheer scope of challenges we face online. You've got everything from, nation states cleverly exploiting system features maybe we overlook, right down to software bugs messing up things we do every day, like streaming. So this dive, it's not just about what happened, but maybe what these incidents suggest about where digital threats are heading.
Okay, first up then, this cyber espionage campaign. It's hitting government and defense groups in India, is that right? And we're talking about APT-36 from Pakistan, that's Advanced Persistent Threat Group 36, state-sponsored stuff, activity spotted around August 1st, 2025, and apparently it's still going on. What's the angle here that makes it so concerning?
Well, what's really fascinating and maybe a bit concerning is how they're doing it. They're not necessarily burning complex, expensive zero-day exploits. Instead, they're weaponizing Linux.desktop files. Now, usually these are just simple text files, application launchers, like shortcuts on Windows, but for Linux. But APT-36, they figured out how to turn these into tools for sneaking out data and keeping persistent access.
Using .desktop files. That's unusual.
It is, and it points to a shift, maybe. Nation-state actors seem more willing now to, skip the pricey 0 days and go for clever, low-cost ways to abuse common system features, things we might overlook. It's less about finding a brand new flaw and more about twisting existing functions. Makes defending against it trickier.
So how does the attack actually kick off? Still phishing emails?
Yeah, starts with phishing, pretty standard there. Victims get a ZIP file. Inside, there's a malicious.desktop file. But it's named and maybe even iconed to look just like a PDF. You click on it thinking it's, just a document.
And then what happens? How does that click escalate?
Well, this is the clever part. Hidden inside that plain text.desktop file in the exec field is a bash command. That command triggers a whole sequence. First, it reaches out to a server and grabs a payload, a piece of malicious code, but it's disguised, hex encoded. It writes this code to a temporary file on the system, makes it executable, and then, boom, launches it silently in the background.
Silently, so the user might not notice anything?
Exactly. And to make sure you don't get suspicious, the script also launches Firefox to display a perfectly harmless decoy PDF. So you think, okay, the document open, all good. And for persistence, they add a line right in the .desktop file, xgo start enabled true. That means the malware, which in this case is a Go-based program, pretty common for espionage on Linux, just runs automatically every single time the user logs in.
Wow.
Yeah. And this malware then communicates back using a WebSocket channel to send out stolen data and receive new commands.
Weaponizing a text file like that.
Yeah.
It's smart, but also, kind of scary. Is there any way for a user to tell if a .desktop file is dodgy? Or are they designed to look totally normal?
That's the problem. For an average user, very, very hard to spot because they are just text files, not programs, not binaries. And this kind of abuse isn't something most security tools are looking for, or at least not as closely. It's a really smart way to turn a standard system feature into basically a malware delivery mechanism. It reminds me a lot of how LNK shortcuts get abused on Windows.
Right, so it implies maybe we need to rethink security beyond just executables.
I think so. We often focus on the obvious threats, the compiled programs, but this shows attackers are looking at, well, everything else, these seemingly harmless system components we trust implicitly. They're fair game.
Okay, let's switch gears then. Moving over to Macs, there's a new threat there.
Yes, a new info stealer. It's called Shamos. Seems to be a variant of an older one, the Atomic macOS stealer, or Amos. This one's linked to a group called Cookie Spider, and they've apparently been trying to infect users worldwide since around June 2025.
Shamos. And they're using something called click fix attacks. Sounds like they're playing on our desire to just fix problems quickly.
That's exactly it. It taps right into that in ecology. You have a problem, maybe your printer isn't working, you search online for a fix, you land on a site maybe through malvertising, fake ads, or even a fake GitHub page that looks like a genuine macOS troubleshooting guide. You're stressed, you want it fixed now, so you trust the guide, and it tells you, just copy and paste this command into your terminal.
The classic copy-paste this magic command trick. So you run it thinking it's a fix.
But it's absolutely not. That command you paste. It often decodes a hidden web address, like base64 encoded, fetches a malicious script, maybe even asks for your password subtly. Then it downloads the actual shameless malware executable. And here's another neat trick. It uses macOS commands like zatrer and chmod. These are used to manipulate file attributes and permissions, and in this case, they trick Gatekeeper Apple's built-in security into letting the malware run without the usual warnings or user approval.
Sneaky. So it bypasses gatekeepers. Once it's running, what's shame us after?
It's an info stealer, so it goes hunting for valuable data. We're talking cryptocurrency wallet files, definitely. Also, everything in your keychain passwords, secure notes, certificates. It digs into your Apple Notes, grabs data from your web browsers like saved logins, history, basically anything sensitive it can find. It bundles it all up into a zip file, usually called out.zip, and sends it straight to the attackers.
And does it stick around? Persistence?
If it manages to get administrator privileges, yes. It creates a plist file, which is like a configuration file, and puts it in the launch daemons directory. That's a system folder that ensures the malware automatically starts up every single time you boot your Mac.
Right. So the core advice here is pretty clear, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. Never, ever run commands you find online, especially from search results, if you don't completely understand what each part of that command does. This click fix thing works because we trust online fixes. When you have Mac problems, stick to official Apple resources, like their support pages, the Apple community forums, or the built-in help system. And definitely be wary of sponsored search results, those top links that are often ads. Stick to the organic results from trusted sources.
Good advice. Okay, finally, let's talk Windows and update issues. Seems like we hear about those fairly often.
We do. This time, it's the August 2025 security updates for Windows 10 and 11. Microsoft has confirmed they're causing some serious problems for people using NDI streaming software.
NDI, so things like OBS, for streamers and content creators.
That's exactly.
OBS Studio, NDI tools, popular stuff. If you're using display capture in those apps, you might be seeing severe lag, stuttering, just a choppy mess. The specific updates are KB50638878 for Windows 11 24H2 and KB50637709 for the current Windows 10 versions.
That sounds incredibly frustrating if you rely on streaming. Is there a fix?
Well, Microsoft is likely working on it, but there is a temporary workaround, thankfully. The issue seems specific to how NDI handles RUDP network connections with these updates. Other connection types, like UDP or single TCP, seem fine. So if you download the free NDI tools package, there's an app called NDI Access Manager. You can go into its advanced settings and change the receive mode to either single TCP or UDP. That should bypass the problem for now. Okay, so workaround exists. That's good. Were there other problems with these updates, too? You mentioned this wasn't the only hiccup.
Yeah, it seems these August updates were a bit rough. Reports also mentioned issues with WSUS, that's Windows Server Update Services, what IT departments use to manage updates. That caused headaches for admins. They also apparently broke the Windows reset functionality for some users, and there were even some quite worrying reports of SSD or hard drive failures and data corruption, possibly linked to the updates, though those might be less widespread.
Oof. So even routine security updates can cause chaos.
It really underscores the complexity, doesn't it? Balancing security patching with maintaining stability across millions of different hardware and software combinations is, well, it's a huge challenge, even for Microsoft.
What a fascinating, if slightly unsettling, tour through the digital landscape today. From, state-sponsored spies using Linux text files to crooks tricking Mac users with fake fixes and even just Windows updates messing things up.
It really highlights the need for constant vigilance, doesn't it? And not just vigilance, but also maybe a deeper understanding of how these systems we rely on actually work, and sometimes how they break. The big takeaway, perhaps, is how the attack surface keeps changing. It's moving beyond just finding software bugs to exploiting trust, abusing standard features.
So what's next?
That's the question, isn't it? What other everyday digital things we completely take for granted, might hold the next vulnerability? What new challenges are waiting just around the corner that we haven't even thought about yet? Something to keep in mind. Stay curious, and definitely be safe out there.